Hey there, this is Pat Ennis of Ennis Legacy Partners. Welcome to the Exit Readiness podcast. I'm here with co-host Walter Dial, CPA and tax partner at GRF CPAs and Advisors here in Bethesda, Maryland. And we have with us today, too, my business partner, Corby McGordon at Ennis Legacy Partners. Our mission here on the podcast is to provide you, the business owner, with subject matter expertise on topics pertaining to building transferable or sellable business value, and then for planning your eventual exit from the business. We want to help you build a business that's transferable and then exit successfully on your own terms and conditions. If you've listened to us at all through the last few years, you've heard us say that a key driver of business value and really a successful exit is what we would call a next level management team. A management team that can take the business to the next few levels of growth and business value. And you've also heard us say many times that the less central an owner is to the business, the more valuable and attractive the business is going to be to potential buyers. And if an owner is going to be less central, then they're going to need to develop a strong management team. And as this becomes a strategic focus for an owner, and if you're one of our clients, it's going to become a strategic focus if it's not already, you'll find that it also expands your options for exit. Now, if you have this strong management team, not only is a third-party sale going to be a real possibility, but perhaps the sale of the business to the management team, or maybe an ESOP, maybe they become real possibilities at that point. But for any one of those exit routes, a strong management team is essential. And then too, if you build a strong management team, if you go to our website, it says enjoy life in the business, plan for life after the business. If another benefit of a strong management team is enjoying life in the business now, as you end up having more of that control and freedom that you wanted when you started the business in the first place. And when that happens, it's not unusual for an owner to just wake up one day and say, hey, wait a minute, why would I sell this? I'm just going to keep it and let it run itself and be an absentee owner. Kind of like when you fix up your house to sell it, you look around, you think, oh, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to move from here. Same kind of thing. Well, in working with owners and having this focus on building a management team, and with their successors too, actually, there's one management challenge that is most common, or we think is most common. How do I become effective at delegating? And a specific aspect of that seems to be even more challenging is being fearful of letting go and trusting others to get the work done that maybe you as the owner have been getting done for customers for maybe decades, and getting it done the way you want to get it done. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about delegating with less terror. And we're excited to have with us today a good friend and a very talented management consultant, Sarah Goelitz. And Sarah is a consultant and trainer who specializes in helping managers become strong leaders. She has years of expertise in creating and leading high-performing teams and deep experience in human-centered product development. She coaches managers and business owners to lead with both skill and heart in order to create success for both the business and the humans involved in the organization. Sarah, great to see you as always. Welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Pat. It's great to be here. Really glad to be talking to you about this.
Yep, we're excited too. And I think Walter has a first question today for you.
Hey, Sarah, I'll start it off. So, I've been a CPA for 40 years, and I would say, and I'm a horrible delegator. And I've decided, since I'm retiring in a year, there's no point in trying to figure out at this point. But when I look at it, I think my number one roadblock to delegating is it's just easier for me to do it. I can do it faster. Um,
Mhm.
I don't have to take the time to train somebody and everything else. And I understand there's a ton of negative consequences to that. But what do you
Mhm.
see as other barriers to people delegating?
That is a great question. Here's the thing, Walter, you're probably right. It probably is faster and easier for you to do it yourself at this point. You just said you've been doing it for 40 years, right? The fascinating thing about that is that's going to continue until you maybe exit that role at some point, right? And then it won't be faster and easier anymore for the people who are coming behind you. Um,
Right.
some of that actually is one of the most common fears that I see with my clients, that like, this is something that I've been doing for a long time. I'm very dedicated to it. It is faster and easier for me to do it myself. And often it's because it's true. You do have that expertise in that. Another fear that I see from clients is, but what if the people that I delegate to don't do it the way that I expect them to? Right. And the reason that we fear that is it often happens. Sometimes people don't do it the way that we expect them to. So I think these fears come up not because they're unreasonable, but because they do sometimes happen. And so in my experience, the best way to address them is really to face them head on. All right, well, how will we navigate through this time period where you're going through perhaps some discomfort of transition from handing off these responsibilities? How will you respond if the person doesn't do it the way that you expect them to? Well, I see some ways to prepare, but those are very, very common and completely something that can be overcome.
Yeah. And I think, thinking on it more, one of the issues I think for us is, and you may see this in other clients, not always having the view that Pat just talked about of building the value of the business. So, for
Mhm.
instance, we may have a short-term goal of we want to have 90% realization on work we do. Well, we'll probably get that if I do it. But if I have to take some time, and the other thing is we want to have mostly chargeable time. We don't want a bunch of administrative time. So to delegate, I'm going to have to take chargeable time, turn it into training time. The person's going to do the job. We're going to have a write-off because they're going to take too long to do it. And if you just look at that real short-term aspect of it, it's all negative. But when you think like what you're saying, the next time a project like that comes up, all I have to do is say, here, do it. All of a sudden, now it's being done at a lower rate, probably almost as fast as I could do it. And I'm no longer bothered by it. And like the really great point you just made, when I leave, there's not this gap of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? So there's a ton of
Mhm.
positives to delegating for sure.
Mhm.
There absolutely are. I think it's so important to take that long-term view to think through, all right, if I stay on this path of doing it myself, the way that I've always been doing it for however many years I've been doing it, and I stay on that path, two things are going to happen. Either I'm going to be here forever, which is probably not exactly my plan, or my exit won't be as successful as it could have been otherwise. But you have the benefit of choosing which path you want to take. And I find a lot of times those trade-offs are worth it to take that short-term discomfort to get to that long-term win.
Mhm. Mhm. So, Sarah, when we're talking about this and we're talking the long-term view, I think there can almost be this dichotomy of, okay, well, that's 20 years down the road. I'm 40 something and I got a long ways to go, so I don't need to worry about that. Speak to that 40-year-old who's got 20 more years before they really care about replacing themselves, and the midterm benefits of delegation.
Yeah, you're so right. I think it's so easy to say, okay, well, yes, I am taking the long-term view. I have a long time to worry about this. Doesn't matter right now, right? The fascinating thing about becoming an expert in delegation is that it's not just about your exit. It's also about growth and value for your company right now. And Pat, I loved your comment early on about actually enjoying your time in the business. If you think of delegation as a spectrum that you can move along, and at one end of that spectrum is I do it all the way that I've always done it. And at the other end of that spectrum is I've delegated, I've handed off some responsibilities to people who can grow into them and perhaps bring their own innovation to them. If I stay at the I do it all the way I've always done it end of that spectrum, there's only one thing that grows, even in the medium term, and it's my stress. If I move towards the other end of the spectrum, I'm enabling growth. I'm enabling new innovation. I'm enabling new ideas to come forward. I'm enabling perhaps more revenue, whatever, all sorts of things come from widening that scope of people who can solve the problems that are coming to you every day in your business.
Yeah. Yeah, and looking at your website as well, the idea of humans and human beings come into play. And I think oftentimes, there's this process orientation, this resource orientation. Speak to that in terms of developing the humans as well as then the tangible value benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we just hold on to the very numeric spreadsheet, process, resources, parts of the business, that's very, very valuable. It absolutely has to exist for your business to exist at all, right? The other thing that has to exist for your business to succeed is people doing the work. And those people, shockingly, don't always fit into spreadsheets. They don't always behave in exactly the way we expect them to. They're not all the same. But that's actually a tremendous source of value for your business, because why would you want a business that's always only informed by the perspective of just one person? You could stay there, but you are going to get so much more value by